Welcome to another year of Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
And I'm Chip.
And we're here to bring you the news, and we're here to bring it to you straight. First off, I want to apologize. Because of the weather, the holidays, and some construction, our shows are running a little bit in arrears, shall we say. And we'll catch up with you soon. But if you're watching this, we're probably right on the money for you. I think the first thing we're going to hit today is the inauguration recently happened for our new city officials. And no surprise to me. I don't know about you, Chip, but definitely was no surprise to me. It was very interesting to see how this went. And let's first talk about the city council. Linda Pereira was ousted as city council president, and she was pretty sure she had the votes necessary to be reelected. But we in our sneaky minds know, because we went snooping and searching, and we found out the information that that wasn't necessarily true. It seems that the mayor had a meeting in Providence with several members of the city council and city council-elect, but of course kept those meetings under the counts necessary to require the open meeting law to be held. And one of the members of those meetings was Jaziel Correa, who was brought in as the number 10 runner in the city council race, but because of Kathy Ann Viveris's appointment to city administrator, was placed on the city council. And the votes were quite interesting to see, and I was surprised. The votes for Linda were, of course, Linda Pereira, Ray Mitchell. That was the surprise vote. I was really surprised to see that. Ray Mitchell actually did keep his word. We were surprised that there wasn't a switch in that one. Then you had Mike Mioza and Dan Rigo. But the votes for Joe Camara were definitely not surprising. This is what the mayor wanted. You had Joe Camara, you had Pat Casey, and you had Leo Pelletier, Jaziel Correa, and Paul De Silva. Amazing, those votes.
Yeah, well, it's amazing only to people who haven't been watching local politics. Obviously, Jaziel Correa was the spokesman for the Flanagan campaign, which is unprecedented in the city. In all my years, I've never seen a candidate for public office also be heavily involved in the campaign of another individual, especially a mayoral candidate. He also over-contributed to the mayor's campaign. He had to be given back money. He was the spokesman for the mayor on election day. So I guess we can pretty well figure that anything the mayor sends to the city council is going to get a yes vote from Jaziel Correa. Paul De Silva is a not too distant second. He also is very well entrenched in the Flanagan machine. And what bothers me more than anything else about this whole thing is I've also never seen a mayor so overtly involved in the presidency of the city council. It seems as though he's gotten the school committee, now he's got the city council, and everybody's going to march in lockstep. And as I said yesterday on a panel show, the last time we had this many people marching in lockstep, it ended up with people doing the goose step. And that's not a good thing for the city. We need debate. We need people with differing opinions. We can't be continuing to go down this road of taxing and spending. And it appears as though we're on that road again, and this time it's paved with votes.
Yeah, and you know, that's the scary part about it. It's, as you said, he has the city council. With the election of Melissa Panchley to the school committee, the mayor now has a 4-2 vote on the school committee. So the mayor never has to cast a ballot on the school committee because he's got what he wants. So now everything this man wants, this man will basically get because he has the votes necessary. And in my mind, it creates a dictatorial environment. And the funny thing about it was, for those of you who remember history, Adolf Hitler took Germany from a very poor and poverty-ridden country and raised it up to one of the world's powers in a matter of years, all because of some of the things he said and did. And people just were, swarming to him to become what he became. Is that what's happening here in Fall River? Are we creating a dictator that's going to run this city to the way he wants it to be? And let's look at his inaugural address. His inaugural address was quite interesting. It was no change from any other address he's made. And he said, we've created jobs, we've created industry, and we're making city a better place. And his whole intention for the next 2 years is to improve the opinion of the city of Fall River and how people look at the city of Fall River, and for us to improve our pride in the city of Fall River. The problem that you have with that is, Mr. Mayor, and those of you who support this quasi-dictator, is what do you have to be proud of in Fall River? We have a high number of unemployment. We have a high number of people who are on welfare, food stamps, unemployment benefits, or any other type of public dole. The city itself is on the welfare system of the federal and state government. You look out your window, the streets are dirty, the neighborhoods are falling apart, there's crime, drugs, and now a murder right off the bat in the beginning of the year. And the mayor touted how wonderful it was to not have a murder for 15 months. And all he ever keeps saying is, look at what I've accomplished. When I look at what you've accomplished, I don't see anything. I don't know. What do you see?
Well, what I see is, I see a lot of political rhetoric, but I also see a mixed message. He says, look what I've accomplished, yet he says he doesn't want to look back. Well, if I had the record he did, I wouldn't want to look back either. The fact is, he's done nothing but raise taxes, increase our bond debt, and basically spend and tax and spend and tax. And there seems to be a total disconnect with this administration. We're living in the world of Alice through the looking glass. We recently saw the Corporation Council have a very cavalier attitude about spending $9,000 on a DOA for her office so it could look like the set of The Good Wife, which she likes, which makes it okay, I guess. However, what they're forgetting is we want to rebrand Fall River. Well, Fall River statistically has 21.4% of people living below the poverty line. So I don't know where you can be encouraged by what we're doing in this city and rebranding it, because the fact remains that there are people losing their houses. Only 37% of the people in Fall River own property, where the state average is 63%, almost 64%. I mean, the statistics don't lie. What we have here is rose-colored glasses and the mentality that we have in this city. We seem to have the people who are running this city looking around and living in a dream world. Well, it's pretty easy when you spend most of your time in Providence having lunch and in Boston having lunch. Well, I guess they're living more in Boston and Providence than they are in Fall River. If I were the mayor, I wouldn't want to look back. And the way he's looking forward, he's going to do the same thing that he's done in the past, which means bad news for the average working person and the people who were scratching to make a living in the city of Fall River.
You know, it's interesting because at the end of the year, at the end of 2013, the mayor did make that comment that I'm not a person that wants to look back. And as you said, I wouldn't want to look back either. He was handed his butt. His corporate counsel was handed her butt, if you want to call it that. I mean, you know, the Law School of Crayola Crayons. But he doesn't want to look back. Of course, he looks like an idiot. Everything he's done, everything his people have done, everything his minions have done, have made him look bad. And the decision-making process right down the line has been poor to absolute failure. We're looking at potential layoffs across the board in City Hall. And the people know that it's possible, but they don't want to hear it. The mayor touts that he's all for public safety, yet we don't fund our own public safety budget. We got to go to the welfare system to do it. How can you run a city like that? And what ends up happening, and you've heard it here first, if not a second or third time, we are going to have tax overrides come before the city council so that they can put a ballot out to override the Prop 2.5 limit. because they're going to say, we're going to lose police, we're going to lose fire, we're going to lose ambulance, we're not going to be able to have services, we're not going to be able to pick up your trash, we're not going to be able to handle your emergency calls, because those phrases set off panic. And this administration and this city government and this city council only react to one thing: government by crisis. And the crisis in this city is not true crisis. It's made up. It's a fable. And I think Grimm's fairy tales has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it seems as though we do live in a dream world in this city. All we have to do is, again, look at what's happened here. There's no accountability. There are no consequences for improper action by anybody who's affiliated with the mayor. We recently lost $800,000 in a grant, and through the incompetence of the law department, who had the unmitigated gall and audacity to appear before the city council and said they got absolutely nothing in writing. Well, when I go to the lawyer, I have to sign an affidavit to go to the bathroom. I don't know what kind of lawyers don't get anything in writing, especially when we're dealing with almost $1 million in funds that could come to this city. But they didn't. And that's because they want plausible deniability for their incompetence. The only time you don't get something in writing is when you don't want to put it in writing. And they made statements like, we were in contact with this individual, and the individual hadn't been working for that company for 2 months. So how much contact do you really have? And then she was on vacation. That was the same excuse that Terry Sullivan used in the water department when we blew the CSO grant. And basically have cost the citizens of the city millions in a CSO that could have been funded by a grant. We have this dream world up on the 6th floor. They get out the elevator, they see their faux marble floor, their flat screen TVs. They walk by their $9,000 door in the law department and $20,000 worth of glass, and the 3 different paint colors that they tried before they got one that they liked. And that's the world they live in. They don't live in the world where $9,000 is half the income, the annual income of somebody who's scratching to make a living in this city. They live in a dream world. Our mayor lives in a dream world. He likes to play dress up. He dresses up like a DPW guy and rides around in a truck. He goes on police stings and rides in a police car. He likes to go to fires and play firefighter. The last thing he does is be the mayor, it appears. The fact is, it's all PR people. Wake up. This isn't a good thing. Oh, the mayor's driving around in a plow. Well, we pay people to do that. We have a Department of Public Works. We have a fire department. We have a police department. We have professionals who are paid to do this job. He's being paid to be the mayor of this city, not play dress up. It's time to stop playing and get to work, Will.
Well, it's interesting because this last snowstorm we had, according to Ken Pacheco, upwards of $250,000 was spent on plowing out this city. And I saw nothing that I would pay $250,000 for. During that snowstorm, I received phone calls from many people who watch this show from across the city that snow plows were in front of their house and there was no snow on the ground, that they were dragging their blades or pushing their blades along the street, causing sparks to fly. And at first I didn't believe that until in the matter of 35 minutes, 12 different private contractor snowplows came by my house with not a drop of snow on the street in front of my house. But don't you know that when the snow was really coming down, I didn't see one plow in my area. Now, Plymouth Avenue was clear. Robeson Street was clear. South Main, North Main, Bedford Street, Pleasant Street, Eastern Avenue, Brighton Avenue, the big major arteries were clear. So the DPW did their job. But I have to ask, how can we afford $250,000 to have every single side street in the city, and I mean every street? You can't see the street. All you see is snow. And I did not see asphalt until we got hit with that rain and 40 50-degree weather for one day. And that's pretty sad that Mother Nature had to come and do the job that $250,000 or $300,000 couldn't do for us. This is how your money's wasted. We always say on this show, follow the money. Because when you follow the money, you find the problems. We follow the money. And we have people that also follow the money. And we have people that follow our show. They send us information. We're always there. We're looking. And you know what? This is why we're looking. Because they're going to come back to us in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and ask us for a Prop 2.5 override so they can fund something else. The mayor bonded $560,000 through the city council to make necessary repairs to Government Center. One of those repairs was required by the state and is also required by the American with Disabilities Act. And that was putting handicap accessible bathrooms on the first floor. But somehow or another, that wasn't done. Instead, we put a $5,000 bathroom repair into the mayor's office, including a nice new shower in faux marble, and a $9,000 door in the corporate counsel's office. I have to ask myself, who made this decision? And the city council was asking this of Ken Pacheco. And the answer that Ken Pacheco gave was, we all know who had this. No, Mr. Pacheco, we don't know who wants this. We have an idea, but we wanted to hear it from you. Okay? You covered up. You went there and you covered it up. You assisted in the cover-up of the misappropriation of money or the malfeasance in handling it. And either way, you helped in that cover-up. Corporate counsel helped in that cover-up. This is our money. It's not yours. It's not yours, Mr. Mayor. It's not yours, Liz. It's not yours, City Council. It's ours. And we're going to hold you responsible. And we're not the only two that are going to do this. We're going to bring you the news, but you need to go to your city councilors and you need to let them know. And on a similar note to that meeting, that city council meeting that was held, you know, I've got to give a big thumbs down, a big boo to Councilor Pat Casey. That meeting, serious questions were being asked. And you tried to emotionalize this. The entire audience in the gallery booed you on this. You turned around and said that people were disrespecting the panelists that were there, the corporate counsel, Ken Pacheco. No disrespect was given to anyone. They were asking serious questions that needed serious answers. And I'm sorry, Councilor Casey, if you are unwilling to ask those questions. That's unacceptable. And we can tell by your actions for the inauguration that you had to make sure that the mayor's wishes were carried out. Because I'm sorry, I feel for you and my heart goes out to you and my prayers go out to you for your health, but for you to put the city council presidency ahead of your own health, I have to question what's in it for you. I don't know. Tell me, Chip, am I just being a little over?
No, I think you're actually being a little undercritical because Pat Casey is the tip of the iceberg. She's the most blatant mayoral sycophant. You guys can look that up in the dictionary. It's a very appropriate word. But I hold the entire city council accountable. At that meeting for this misappropriation of funds, which I think is deplorable, we forego our handicapped bathrooms to fix the mayor's shower up. Not one person on that city council, when Ken Pacheco, who by the way got a pay raise, and who was acting city administrator at the time, refused to say who was responsible for the misappropriation of the funds. His response was, as CJ said, we all know who it is. And they took that as an answer. Well, councilors, that's not the correct answer. You are our representatives. Maybe you did know who was responsible, and maybe CJ and I know who's responsible because we follow the money and follow the news. But the taxpayers and the citizens of Fall River deserved to hear the name spoken. The city administrator, the acting city administrator, you should have demanded that he say the words, Mayor Will Flanagan gave the order to do these repairs rather than the ones that you voted on. Those words should have been disseminated to everybody in this city. It should have been on the front page of the Herald News. It should have been on the lips of everyone at that meeting. And it's a disgrace that the only place that's willing to call this is Spindle City Straight Talk.
Well, that's why we do it here. We have to call them out. And it's sad that we have to do that. And I think also what was sad, and was the fact that at that meeting, Brad Kilby didn't appear. And the answer that was given to the council president and the city council was that he was awaiting the birth of his granddaughter, or her grandchild, which I believe happened January 3rd. So that was a long labor. But I'm not calling him out for that, but he should have been there too, even though he was outgoing. Other outgoing councilors made an effort to be there. Now, the interesting thing about this beginning of this year was Eric Poulin's statement regarding the city council now that he's gone. And he actually called them out. And I wondered if this is the precursor to a future run for mayor, in that he said the city council needs to act in the best interest of the citizens and to not politicize their decisions. I'm not going to go into the entire diatribe he placed online, but I thought that was very interesting because we've been saying that for a while. And everyone says their decisions are not politicized. We know they are. We know they are. And the worst part about it is, so are you. You're watching here, you're going, maybe they're right. Maybe they got something here. Maybe they're saying something that we need to know. And we are. It's time for us to take back our city. It's time for us to show up at those city council meetings. It's time for us to say, we want what's right, and we want what's right for Fall River. We're here for the betterment of Fall River, not for the betterment of the 6th floor or any person on the city council. And it's really sad when you have somebody who is a primary spokesman for the mayor who doesn't know what it's like to be a member or a citizen of Fall River. And not that I'm faulting him. I mean, he's worked very hard. He's become very successful. He has money. He has fancy cars. He dresses well. But you know what? He doesn't know what a typical Fall River person goes through every day. And it seems that he doesn't care. And that's a sad thing. That really is a sad thing. We need more than that. We need a lot more than that. And the people of Fall River, I'm going to tell you now, if I see another 24% turnout at the voters' poll, then you got what you deserve. You're asking for it. This is 2014. Let's make a show at the polls that they're going to understand. That we're going to show up and we're going to vote you out of office if you're not doing what we want. Whether it be your state representative, which is this year, which is also a gubernatorial race here. I mean, this is a year that we can make some serious noise. And it's time for us to do that. It's time for us to take back Fall River. And you're going to see coming down the pike, because we know what's happening already, and we've got our future shows already planned. Chipper and I talk about this all the time. We can't write this stuff. If you think Days of Our Lives are interesting, watch our show, because I'll tell you now, we beat it to death. But we know what's going to happen, and we're planning our shows accordingly. And when we bring this news to you, you're going to see what happens. Chipper, you've already got your hands in some things here, and I mean, it's not a pretty sight for Fall River.
No, it's not. And is it my turn for commentary?
Yes, it is. It's your
okay.
And that's why.
So I will segue into my commentary because I'll get into that, and we will go back to the diatribe that Councilor Casey had at that meeting. I encourage all of you to watch the meeting on your on the local channel and see exactly what it was. And that basically was saying that it's wrong to question city officials about misappropriations of funds. Well, I think that somewhere along the line we've forgotten very basic things. There's an old adage that if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. I think everybody has failed to remember that probably some of the most contentious debate that ever occurred in the history of this nation was when we became a nation. The fact is that it's not bad to have different opinions. As a matter of fact, sometimes when you have differing opinions, we come up with something in the middle. You know, we have a thesis and antithesis, and we come up with something in the middle called a synthesis, and sometimes it's a better idea. And I take it extremely personally when a representative who is elected to represent me, a homeowner, a taxpayer, as CJ is, and the citizens of this Fall River, gets upset when people who are making well in excess of $100,000 and have blown almost $1 million grant are questioned vigorously by the city council. You know, wake up. That's what you're there for. They get the big bucks. It's time for them to be on a hot seat. Nothing personal. When they go into court, they're going to try to win a case. Well, the city council's there to try to oversee the good of the taxpayer and the way our money is spent. And it's just not being done. And having a meeting and talking about it a little bit and then filing it in and saying, oh, well, we did have a meeting on it, there's still no accountability. I want to see, I've seen people who have relatively low-level jobs in this community suspended, fired, for far less egregious violations than I see to go on every day at the top level of government. And I blame all the tiers of government. We are supposed to have checks and balances. That's why we have a tripartite system on the federal level, to have checks and balances. Well, in this city, we don't want checks and balances. If you say something that they don't like, you're negative. You know, it's no good for Fall River. Fall River's beautiful. Fall River is wonderful. Or as the mayor said in his address, Fall River is second to none. Yeah. Well, no, actually we're 44th in drugs, 48th in crime. So, you know, you have over 20% of the people living below the poverty level. Wake up. Wake up, councilors. Wake up, people. Get to the polls, and as CJ said, vote. You wait until the ship has sunk before you do anything. Napoleon Bonaparte once said there are two levers that move men, fear and self-interest. Well, I'm telling you, to end my commentary, it's in your self-interest, it is in your best interest to get to the polls in the next election and clean house.
Sounds good to me, I'll tell you. And thank you for tuning in today. This has been Spindle City Straight Talk. We're always here for you. If you have any comments or suggestions, like or dislike us, we're not a negative bunch. We hear it all. You can get a hold of us on Facebook. You can send us an email at spindlecitystraighttalk@gmail.com or give us a phone call. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Happy New Year.